Cat Anders.
Now let's do the money line, which is a vertical line. It's on a slant, starts at the end of the headline, and in between the headline and the heart line, that's about age 20, 30, and half of 40. And then when it crosses over the heart line, that's the rest of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So your explanations in red, in between the sun and the Mercury finger, very good money line, very good. 2 lines, incomes in your 20s and 30s. By the way, if you get financial aid or scholarships or anything like that, that's a benefit to you, and so you have to kind of count that as an income type thing. So 2 lines, or if you get inheritance or something from your parents. 2 lines, incomes in your 20s and 30s. And then 1 line, income in your 40s. Well, that's just the first part of your 40s, because then it crosses over the heart line. And then you've got 3 lines in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. That kind of, in your 40s, that kind of fades into your 50s. But 3 lines look good. And I get 3 lines and all the way on up till the rest of your life. So you're probably, besides having a husband, you'll probably have a hobby that brings some income, or you'll do something on the side. Okay, you're going to like this. Underneath that Mercury finger is your marriages and your children. So see where the end of the heart line comes off the outside of the hand there? Flirt lines, little tassels. Yours are fairly good. You could learn to flirt a little better. You don't have a whole lot of flirt lines in there. Then that section in between the flirt lines and the ring around the Mercury finger, your marriage and your relationship lines go horizontal from the outside of the hand in towards the middle, and then the children lines come down from that ring around the Mercury finger. And you read those from the inside out. First child is right there by the asterisk, and then the next child's in the middle there, and then the last child's out towards the outside part of the hand. So I get 3 children. Now, starting down there at by the flirt lines, I get 1 relationship line, and then I get a marriage line. You divide that section about in thirds. From the flirt lines going up, that first third is about age 20, 30. That middle third is about 40, 50, and that last third is about 60, 70, 80. So then I get that. See that 1 little relationship line's in red. It's a little hard to determine there with that ring around the flirt lines. But that's a relationship in red. And your marriage line is really good. Nice dark line with nice color. It's good long marriage too. So I can't tell exactly when you're going to marry, but there's a little marking that shows up in your hand. Looks like the letter Y. It's a stick with a fork on the end of it. And it generally will show up in the fate line. There's a good timeline on that fate line. It starts at the base of the palm and goes up to the Saturn finger. It's the green line. And where it hits the headline, that's age 40. And where it hits that heart line, that's about 50. But then when it hits that ring around the Saturn finger, that's 80. So about every 1/8 of an inch is about a year. About every 1/2 an inch is about 7 or 8 years. So here's where I saw that little marking, the little Y, that's a chance to marry. But then, of course, you're the master of your fate. You're the one that makes the choice when you marry. But here's a positive time in your life to marry. Down there by where it says Guardian Angels, right in the left-hand corner, ages 29, 30, 32, and 33. Okay, let's do your achievement lines here. Okay, the achievement lines are in that upper left-hand corner. These are the lines come off the top of the lifeline, and they go up to, sometimes they point just to the Jupiter finger, sometimes they point straight up. If they're real long, or if they're got a lot of color, or they're real thick, then they're extra good achievement lines, especially if they're real long lines. So up, and I circle them in red. So here's your achievement lines. Good at these ages, 11, 12, 15, 18. Circled at 25, 30, 34, 40, 41, 45, 46, 49, 50, 53, 56, circled at 57, circled at 59. Ooh, your 50s are going to be good to you. 60, 61, 62, 63, circled at 70, 72, 73, and circled at 75. That last one at 75 was really good. Oh, are you going to do something artistic then? Maybe. Maybe so. There's where you're turned out of place on that vertebrae where I've circled the red places. Now, see the column where it says vertebrae? Underneath that Jupiter finger, that's going to show the vertebrae in that cervical area, 1C through 7C. And then underneath that Saturn finger, it's going to show 1T through 12T. That's your thoracic. Underneath the Sun finger, it's going to show your lumbar, 1L through 5L. And underneath that Mercury finger, it's going to show your low tailbone, your sacrum, your sacrum and your coccyx. Sacrum is the top part, coccyx is the bottom. So if any of those are out of place, I've circled it where it's out of place. Actually, you got one of the better spines I've seen for a while, to tell you the truth. Boy, I've seen some doozies lately. So where I've got the red circles on the spine, that's where you're out of place. And see your little depression line right down there at 6 cervical. Run your finger across that says depression. That's right kind of at the base of your neck. You must do a lot of computer work. You got the internet. That means the internet, but you're out of place in the neck, so I call it the internet. Bending over that computer all the time, and it stresses the base of that neck. I'll tell you in a minute a little therapy you can do to straighten that up. And if you're out of place in that top part of that spine, it's going to throw you out in your lower spine to compensate. So under that Jupiter finger, then, that's where it shows you're out in that lower cervical and a little bit in the top part of that thoracic. And that's where your heart nerves are, right there, right at the base of that neck. So here's how you straighten that up. Here's how, if you'll sit up straight in a chair or stand up, put your arms right straight out in front of you, lock your fingers together, and hold your arms right straight above your head. Now don't bend your elbows, keep your elbows straight, and push your arms back behind your head, back, and you'll hear it go pop, 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 and that pops those vertebrae back in place. I tell all the people that work in the offices how to do this. A lot of them do it at lunchtime, and then they do it at the end of the day, and they say their spines feel so much better, because that's just moving those vertebrae right back in place where they should go after you adjust them from bending over those computers. I used to read hands in the 1990s, 96, 97, 98. I did never see the interneck problems, the problems at the base of the neck. People just didn't have stressed necks, but boy, almost everybody has them now. Okay, over underneath that Jupiter finger, it got a little square in there, some little lines going right underneath that Jupiter. Those are sometimes from childhood injuries. And then you should have a nice little fat pad in there, which is your sixth sense or your intuition. And if you got an X right on top of that little fat pad, you're just slightly psychic. You kind of know things before they happen. So here's how that works. If you got a problem you got to solve, clear your mind completely, let go blank for about 30 minutes. And then when you come back to solve the problem, your sixth sense or your intuition has probably kicked in. You won't have any problem at all. You won't have a hard time at all solving that problem. So listen to those little promptings inside your head. Okay, that heart line now is the first major line in your hand. and that starts between your Jupiter and Saturn fingers, comes down, makes a nice curve. It should make a nice curve in your palm, and then go to the outside under that Mercury finger. It does. It's got a nice curve in it. That means you're very loving and caring. But it's real straight. You're kind of tough emotionally, but yours is nice. You got a nice curve in there. And then you don't want to see these little items on your heart line. Go up there where it says lines of energy in the left-hand corner of your chart. Run your finger down where it says islands. Where you see those little islands, those little ovals or circles or little triangle-y things, those are a break in the energy of the line. You don't want to see any of those at all on any of your lines. You got some on that headline, but you don't have them on the heart line, which is good news. Your heart healthy. Your heart looks nice and healthy. You must walk or something. There's another line called the health line that starts at the fate line, goes a little vertical up towards that Mercury finger. That's your internal organs. That's kind of your low spine, lower part of your body, your colon, your liver, your spleen. Yours looks good. You don't want to see a whole bunch of little lines in there. You got one good clean line, and it looks fairly good. So I don't think you've been out of place too long in your spine. Usually if you're out of place in that upper spine, it throws you out in your lower spine. You're out a little bit in that lower spine. You're getting one of those little island things in there. You'll want to straighten that up before you have any more kids. The fate line is the green line that starts at the base of your palm, goes up to the Saturn finger only. It's an example of your career and your lifestyle. Look down there in the lower right-hand corner of your chart where it says fate line. Anytime that line breaks, it's a change in either the career or the lifestyle. Usually it's both, to tell you the truth. Where I've circled that's a real dramatic change. A little change at 21 and at 25, and then a real good break right there at about 34, and then at 40, and that where that fate line crosses over the headline, that's age 40. So you had a little break there. But then at 41 to 52, I see two lines going parallel to each other. That's generally two jobs. So, or it could be a hobby and a job, or it could be another family and a job. You got more family to go here. Anyway, two jobs. Then age 53 to 60, three lines, three jobs. Oh my gosh, that doesn't go very long. That only goes for about 7 years. But then that's the same as those extra money lines. Notice that in your 50s, in your late 40s and 50s. Let's see, 53 to 60 is three lines. And then I just get one line up to 70. Then it breaks at 70. It's a change at 70. And you get the break, and then one line goes all the way up into the finger, crosses over that ring around the Saturn finger, that's 80. And that goes up to age 87. You're going to live till you're about 87 years old. Okay, we're down to that head and spine line. That starts in between the thumb and the Jupiter finger, and it goes across your hand to the outside underneath that Mercury finger. Yours is really good. Two things you learn on that. You can tell how smart you are by how straight across your hand that goes. But if you got any problems in that spine, if any of those vertebrae are turned out of place, it's going to show. It's going to show those little islands on your hand. You see where the red spots are? That's where it's turned out of place in the spine. But you get over there and you got a depression. It's a pretty good depression line too, going into that Mount of Luna area. That's because you're out of place right there in the kind of the bottom part of that neck. You'll understand that in just a minute here. I'm not telling you this because I'm just a palm reader. I've actually got a master's degree in health education. I'm an old school teacher. I've got a master's degree in health ed, and when I was finishing my master's in health education, I started reading these palmistry books. And I read an old book written by Dr. Eugene Scheiman, a medical doctor, and he tells how you can see the spine on the head and spine line if the spine's out of place, because that spine runs your whole body. And I started reading the spine marks, and they show up with those little island marks in there if the spine's out of place. And by gosh, it's true. Like I say, your headline's a very intelligent line. Two things on the guardian angels. I read one thing on the left hand and one thing on the right hand. So on the left hand, these are the lines that come up underneath the lifeline, and they will touch on the lifeline at the age you were, on your left hand, at the age you were when someone passed away that you were bonded to. Say your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, aunties, uncles, cousins, old boyfriends, old girlfriends, children. So remember, this is the age you were when they passed away, so you have to do a little math there. And then what it does, the line comes up and touches. This is in purple, and then it makes a little tiny line that goes across both lines. So starting between the thumb and the Jupiter finger there, where that line starts, where I can see it from the front, that's about age 10. And I just count that down, about every eighth of an inch, about a year, about every half an inch, about 7 or 8 years. So here's where your guardian angels in your left hand are. That's someone that's passed away, a loved one that's passed away. You had a bunch there in your early teens. At 11, 13, 14, 15, and then 18. So think how old you were when your loved ones passed away, and they'd become guardian angels to you. Now in your right hand only, when you have the line that comes up and touches at the bottom of the lifeline, that is a visit from a guardian angel. Sometimes if you've been really sick, or if you've had an accident, or if you got hurt, or if you had an operation or something, or if you're in distress, you'll get that guardian angel line. It does not make a little line that goes across, however. It just comes up and touches at the bottom of the lifeline. So this is on your right hand only. This is very often if you've had a death of a loved one, it touches at the same time, because generally when they die, their spirit leaves their body, and then it goes around, checks on all their loved ones, and then it goes off into the light. So sometimes you'll have the same numbers there. Well, you do here at 13. This is in the red. Down the bottom, angel visits, 13. Now see, that's when you had a loved one die. 14, same thing. 19, and 25. Okay, and then the last one thing on that lifeline is your achievement lines. Oh, do you know what I missed? I missed that lucky sign. You've got a little triangle right in that lifeline. That's a lucky sign at age 35 to 38. It's about a 3-year period. It's a real positive time in your life. The length of your fingers are your talents. Everyone has talents. No one gets cheated. Long fingers mean one thing, short fingers mean another thing. Nothing's good or bad. That's just the way you're born. Now look down in the lower right-hand corner of your chart where it says palm shape. The shape of the palm is your very best talent. Now there's square palms, there's round, there's long, there's a mixture. Yours is a very nice round palm, very artistic. You see colors and proportions, things that fit together well. Now up in the upper right hand corner of your chart it says types of fingertips. This is your personality. You got 2 slightly pointed fingers, like fine things, sensitive, diplomatic, and practical, kind of a collector. And then you got 3 rounded fingertips. Intuitive, quick, compassionate. You should be in the health field. Compassionate means that you're very caring about your fellow man. Okay, jump down to that thumb now. Now we're going to do your talents according to the length of your fingers. That thumb is a little bit long. That means you will do well in life. Good manual dexterity. That's because you work well with your hands. You'll hold tools and instruments well. That Jupiter finger, index finger. Let me explain these names on these fingers. Palmistry is about 2,000 or 3,000 years old, and they'd gone through and named all the fingers and different areas of the palm. usually with names of Greek gods or goddesses or astrological names. So that index finger is the Jupiter finger, the middle finger is the Saturn, the ring finger is the Sun or the Apollo finger, and the little finger is the Mercury finger. Then that space in between the head and the heart line, that is called the Mars area, clear across the palm there. And one other important one in the palm is right at the base of the thumb. That little fat pad right at the base of the thumb is called the Mount of Venus. Venus, goddess of love, because that tells you about your sexual libido. And it also tells you if you're drinking enough water, if you're well hydrated or not. Yours looks good. You don't want to see any wrinkles in that little pad right at the base of your thumb. You want that to be just so fat you can't even hardly pick up the skin. That means that you're getting enough water. You need to have about 32 ounces a day. Okay, let's see. We're up here at, jump back up there to the Jupiter finger, the index finger. That's excellent. That you had a nice long one there. The boss, the manager, the supervisor, teaching finger, sales finger. Then that Saturn finger is a little bit short. If it's real long, you're just out to make a lot of money. So make sure you're concerned with social issues. And again, very compassionate, very caring about your fellow man. Now that Sun finger, that's your ring finger, that's absolutely average. That needs to come up to about halfway on that top joint on that Saturn finger. And it just barely gets up there. So you're creative, imaginative, inventive, but you're also practical, systematic, and organized. A place for everything and everything in its place. Then that little finger, that Mercury finger, that's a little bit short too. That's a hands-on person, very active. You'd like to be moving around. Desk work isn't your favorite thing. Let me see what you do. Aren't you alone? Oh, you work in a financial institution? I hope you don't have to sit at a desk all the time. If that's real long, you love to work with words and letters, but it's quite short.